Hi and welcome back. It's good to see you. I am in a different location today, as you can tell. Don't know if I've mentioned it in previous videos, but we are moving a couple of states away. And so the house is a total piece of chaos, and I am up in the Tree of Life room, the stencil that I did, 15 years ago, that is now going to be the new home of a lovely little girl. Today, I want to talk to you about April 20th because it seems to be a topic that everyone is talking about. I took a look at the astrology. I think we're all kind of wondering in America where we are on this timeline that we got dropped into at some point in time in 2024. And I think we have some answers to that. And April 20th is part of the answer to that journey. We're going to look at 3 dates in this drain the swamp kind of a vibe that we're in. Figure out where America needs to go and what our role is going to be in it. So we're first going to look at April 20th, 2025. Here we have April 20th, and we are in 2025. First thing I want to point out is we have the South Node on Neptune. The South Node is kind of that drain the swamp thing. It's get rid of some old things, and it's on America's Neptune. Now, America is the people. America's chart, 4th of July, 1776, that is the people of America. We're draining the swamp. The nodes are coming over Neptune, and they're saying it's time to get rid of some things. And one of the things it's asking us to get rid of is a savior complex. In America's chart, with Neptune in the 9th house, we have this idea that is inbred into us as a citizen of the United States, this underlying idea that we can be saved by something, by the divine. Neptune is that bridge between reality and the divine, recognizing that we have so much power, but there is power beyond what we have here on Earth. Neptune in its shadow can be delusional. Neptune in its highest aspirations can be devotional, trusting in the divine. So I think we have some opportunities to get out of that savior complex. The ask here on April 20th, and just this one aspect we're looking at, is for us to take accountability for the leadership of our country, not to allow others to take that leadership role. And that's inherent in the chart of America through our South Node, or through our Pluto in Capricorn marking. If you haven't watched the video, Can This Marriage Be Saved? Go back and watch that, where I go a little bit more into detail about that Pluto marking in America's chart and what it means to us as the people. The second aspect I want to talk about is Jupiter on Mars. So transiting Jupiter in Gemini is on Mars in Gemini. Gemini wants to be self-informed, or it can be self-deceptive. You have that space in between that you manage, right? But with Jupiter coming on top of our Mars wants to be self-informed in America's chart. So we have that drive to be curious like a Gemini is, to piece things together differently, to observe what's going on. There's a divine reason why we got this marking. Now we have Jupiter coming on top of that Mars, giving us a new start in that area. It hasn't been there for 12 years. The last time it was there was in 2013, and prior to that, in 2001. The next aspect I want to highlight is Uranus. Uranus is the awakener. Uranus has been in Taurus for the last 7 years. Taurus is concerned about security. It's security through my values, psychological and physical, like my house, my clothes, my belongings. And it's also concerned with my self-worth and what I bring to the table, my ability to earn money. Taurus is very much associated with money. Taurus can, at times, be, what is it called when you gather and you're hoarding? Taurus can kind of be that. It isn't something that really likes to change. So Uranus has been there for the past 7 years, awakening us to where we are hoarding, where we are holding on to money. It's bringing us awareness of our over-reliance on money, distribution of money, those types of things. Well, it's in this relationship in this chart with these planets down at the bottom. Our North Node in Pisces, the transiting North Node, is inviting us to see the difference between the healer or the Houdini. The North Node would be asking us to see the healer. And this is an interesting aspect as it relates to this South Node up here, which is on our natal Neptune, asking us to drain the swamp in that area, to take accountability. So Pisces, North Node in Pisces, is awakening us that we are the healers of this country. And I hesitate that word awaken. I don't like it. It implies that we're asleep. We haven't been asleep. We've been focused on other things in our lives. We've just been through a major pandemic, and I'm not giving excuses. This is huge in the timeline of this universe, what Earth is doing right now. Not just America. I mean, these are personal attributes. These are personal contacts to America's chart. But the rest of the world is feeling this too in their own way, just not as personally as America, because we also have that partner that we married in 1787 called our Constitution, and we're going to look at that in part 2 of this video. So here in the bottom, you have this North Node leading us to this idea that we are the healer, and you have Venus right next to it saying, I want to relate to others, I want to see things differently, I want to understand people. But there you have Saturn right along with it, right? There is Saturn. And it's saying, obstacles to that. Maybe you're delusional. Maybe you don't have enough power to that. It's presenting us obstacles so we develop that self-determination. And what's also interesting is all these planets are heading to Neptune. This idea of, here's reality and here's what's beyond reality that you can't see or maybe not relate to. It's a universal force. Right now, it just moved into Aries. Aries is about self-empowerment. So you can kind of see this struggle going from Pisces into Aries, asking us to be the healer and to find our self-empowerment. There are more aspects coming up with Neptune that we'll talk about in future videos. This is just April 20th, so you kind of get what the universe is inviting us to see in the timeline. This is a time of empowerment, of people saying, okay, had enough drama, had enough trauma, we're taking action. Look at the protests of yesterday, right? There's conversation about, oh my gosh, is there going to be military law, martial law instituted or anything like that? I think that's some of our fears coming through, but I think the power of the people right now is such that I don't know if that energy is ready to be allowed in. I think the power of the people is really speaking enough and loud enough, and we're moving enough in our own unique ways, depending on what you believe. We're moving in the right direction. That doesn't mean we're going to have nirvana. This world, our Earth, was not created to experience nirvana. There is no magical answer here for us. We are here to work through this stuff, because working through this stuff, we grow love. Let's look at the second date out of the 3, and that is May 2nd. In December of 2024, Mars was in Leo, and it went retrograde on December 6th. Now, on December 6th, some of the things that were happening then were Elon Musk and Doge, that he had announced Doge 2 that had some master list of who it was going to go after. President Biden had pardoned his son, Hunter Biden, and we had the shooting of the CEO of a major healthcare company. That was the general energy in the political world that we saw then. It's important to note when a planet goes retrograde what's going on as it's going in that forward direction. Because when it goes retrograde, it's going to think about things. It's going to redo. It's going to reevaluate. It's going to revisit. So when Mars comes out of its shadow, when it gets back to that point to where it went retrograde, it's picking up where it left off. Mars went direct in February of 2025, and it was in Cancer at that point, and it came back into Leo just recently in late April. Well, it's getting ready to come out of its shadow on May 2nd. Let's take a look at that chart. On May 2nd, transiting Jupiter is exact on Mars, our natal Mars in America, the people. You can expect the people talking a whole lot more, connecting the dots a whole lot differently. It's that momentum. In astrology, you're not going to see big events. I mean, yes, you can experience a big event and you can look at the chart and you can say, oh, I get it. That's what it meant. But this is talking about the energy that our universe, our guides, are bringing us to work through and to experience and to participate in, not just observe or to wonder, when's it all going to end? If you're wondering when it's all going to end, you're missing the point. The point is to be a creator with the universe. So here we are. That transit, Jupiter and Mars, is exact that day. And look where transiting Mars is. It's on our natal north node. Our natal north node that asks us to express ourselves in an emotional way, to understand the deep waters where we operate, where we feel, the things that we hide, that we don't speak about, where we fear we are going to lose to others, the things that we have to emotionally hold on to for fear that we won't survive. It's in a house that is transformational because it is a bridge between the physical things that we find security in and the emotional things that we find security in. That's an important transit. In addition, Pluto is still applying to our south node. We in America have never experienced Pluto applying to our south node, because we're not old enough to have experienced that. We would have to be, 500 plus years old to be able to look back at the data to say what happened back when that happened. But what we can infer from this is that Pluto wants to change your relationship with something. And you don't know that you have this relationship, but it's going to go deep, like with an excavator, into the deepest parts of you, and it's going to pull things out for you to look at that you don't necessarily want to see. So you have to become aware of it. And we've talked before about Aquarius, the corporation or the cult. We are going to be asked, with our South Node and our history there for America, what is your relationship with being an equal player in a corporation versus just following someone else's ideologies or rules blindly? That aspect won't become exact for a few years. For example, Pluto conjunct our south node, but we're working that energy. We started to feel it as soon as Pluto started entering that Aquarian realm back in 2024. It's going to become more acute now. When it first goes into a sign, when Pluto changes a sign, it sits in a sign for about 20 years in general. It has varying times that it spends in each sign. But for Capricorn, it was in there for about 18 years. It's going to be the same roughly amount of time in Aquarius. So we're going to get to know it. But that changeover from signs can feel rather abrupt. We wake up to different invitations that we hadn't received before, and it feels a little abrupt because things are being brought into our consciousness that we really didn't want to see. Let's look at one more transit to understand the story of April 20th. Here we have May 16th of 2025. Jupiter has moved on past its conversation with Mars. Mars is that get up and go, get things done, but it wants to talk in this case, and it wants to talk about equality in our relationships. It wants to talk about negotiating power, our power versus someone else's power. Well, Jupiter has left that conversation and it's talked to Mars and it says you need to get up and go. And now Jupiter is in a conversation that is challenging with the transiting North Node and South Node. It's creating this internal pressure about our negotiation power. It's creating an awareness of where we don't have a voice to speak up. It's creating a tug between that still worshiping this idea of being saved, North Node in conjunct our natal Neptune, and this idea of being our own healer versus the Houdini, fixing it all like that, versus healing and going deep. The gist of April 20th, I get it. In this evolving timeline that we are in, looking at America in a totally different way, the process of revisiting and recreating our Constitution, of people taking back the power from the leadership. You know, that's what 2008 through 2024 was all about with Pluto and Capricorn. Capricorn, are you leading with the heart or are you leading with the wallet? Capricorn is the leadership structures of a country, of a business, in the world. And we're doing that work now with Aquarius, with Pluto in Aquarius, by challenging again. Wait a minute. Are we all leading? Because we are all equal. We are all the chosen ones. Or am I being bamboozled into thinking, you know, something is happening and something isn't? Take back your power. Neptune in Aries. Neptune can be the divine, the spiritual. Aries is the warrior, the innovator. We're all spiritual warriors. The universe just wants us to recognize that. And by spiritual, it doesn't mean prayer all the time, but if that's your thing, okay. Spiritual can just mean listening to that inner voice, discerning what it's saying, and then taking action. Not being the observer, but being the creator in this world. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in part 2.